Good morning, Talk Straight family. Gina Coulter here. I hope everyone is doing well, and I am thankful that I get to be part of this ministry and thankful to the word that God gives me and how he teaches me and he shows me things and allows me to share that. So I pray and I hope that this speaks to you in whatever way that you need. So we're going to talk about that little thing that's in our mouth between our teeth that does a lot of wiggling around and can cause a lot of trouble. And I've just been thinking a lot about with Pastor Jeremiah and Rafina talking about wisdom. And I think there's definitely a lot of wisdom that we need to apply to our tongue. And I shared with you on my last message about this movie with the priest who had found out some sin that one of his clergymen was engaging in, and he had to confront him. And there's another piece to this movie that God just downloaded more little nuggets. And so I'm going to share those. This movie was pretty powerful. And so I'm thankful for it. It's been convicting and challenging and all kinds of good stuff. But so in the movie, the whole reason that all of this came out with this clergyman's sin is because of this little flash drive. I think that's what it's called. Flash drive, USB port, I don't know, whatever it is. Thing that goes in the computer. And so he gets a hold of this, and at the point where he's at his house with it, and he's going to put it in to see what is on it, this woman who's a tutor for his son, she comes in the house, she comes in the room where he's in, and she can hear and see what is on this USB drive. And so right away, she jumps to this conclusion, and she starts blaming his son, who she's there to tutor and is a teenager, and starts saying how she needs to turn this into the authorities. It's pedophilia. It has to be reported, and just starts like spewing out all of this stuff. But she has no knowledge of the truth. She doesn't know the facts. She just reacts instead of waiting and responding. And so that really spoke to me. And I want to read you a few things. The first verse comes out of James 3. And we all know it well, but I'm going to read it slowly. We all make mistakes. If people never said anything wrong, they would be perfect, and they would be able to control their entire selves too. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can control their whole bodies. Also, a ship is very big, and it's pushed around by strong winds. But a very small rudder controls that big ship, making it go where the pilot wants. It is the same with the tongue. It is a small part of the body, but it brags about great things. A big forest fire can be started with only a little flame. And the tongue is like a fire. It is a whole world of evil among the parts of our bodies. The tongue spreads its evil through the whole body. The tongue is set on fire by hell, and it starts a fire that influences all of life. I thought about the last portion of this verse. This big forest fire that can be started only with a little flame, right? Like this lady, she just knew this little bit of something. And yet, as soon as her tongue started flapping with what was going on in her brain that she was assuming, it came out of her mouth. And it created this fire. And it created this storm that happened in the movie of you see, because of how she reacted, the priest got into a place where he now needed to protect his family. And so they put things in place to try to protect his family, to keep this woman quiet. And it just snowballs on and on and on. But at the end of the movie, you realize, you're like, wow, all of this stuff happened to this poor family, to this priest, because of this one woman, because she reacted instead of gaining knowledge for herself and asking questions and getting facts and then responding in wisdom in a place that could maybe bring healing instead of bringing division. And so this verse speaks that to me. And when it says about the tongue is set on fire by hell, and it starts a fire that influences all of life. Isn't that so true, right? Evil can start in our mouth. And it can influence so much of the things that we have going on in our life. So many things that we bring in our own life is because of our very own little tongue that needs to be controlled. And Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Proverbs 12:18 says, there's one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Ephesians 4:29 says, let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, but only that which is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may be grace to anybody who hears it. And those words just really speak to me. This movie, just everything about it really spoke to me, because if I could be honest, a lot of time my little Italian tongue can get the best of me. And I will find out information or news or what have you. Maybe my sons come home and they tell me about a situation going on in their lives. And sometimes I automatically get in that place of vomiting my opinion or my perspective or assumption without being wise to bring healing and stepping back and processing and then responding. And when we are able to take a step back, which the Bible instructs us to be wise and bring healing with our tongue. So that means we have to step back out of those places where we can assume things or our brains can run wild with us, right? Like how many of you, like you're in a situation and all of a sudden your brain starts running wild to the what ifs and the shoulda, woulda, coulda, and all those things, right? It happens to all of us. And our minds, they run wild with us. And we've got to gird up our thoughts. And we've got to quiet our tongue so that that stuff that's going on in our head doesn't come out of our mouth, because in a lot of times it's just a bunch of lies and gibberish that Satan wants to just keep downloading to us to hopefully come out of our mouth and cause division. And God says he wants us to use our tongues to uplift, to build up, that people that would hear us would listen because we would be filled with grace. And it's in that place that I can feel convicted sometimes, because I let my mind run away with me and it comes out of my mouth. And instead of ushering out words that would bring healing, I sometimes usher out words that would bring more divisiveness. And so this is something for me that I'm getting better at working on. It's been a little bit of time that God's been dealing with me in it, but I'm getting better at being able to just be quiet for a minute. Instead of vomiting out my mouth, being quiet for a minute to know how to either A, not respond and respond at a different time when I could get myself together, or B, responding in a way that is uplifting, that's going to bring healing, and that's going to be grace to those who hear it. And I think that right now in our world, we are seeing such a time as the tongue set on fire by hell, with a fire that's influencing all of life on social media, right? Social media, the news, like on social media, we might see a post and then you see, thousands of other posts and they're all people's opinions and vomiting out the mouth. People seem to have lost knowledge, gaining knowledge before they speak. And I think that wisdom and knowledge, they go hand in hand. And if we're going to be wise, we also have to have knowledge. So a person who's wise, they are brought a situation and they are able to apply knowledge to that. And so maybe in the midst of this movie, I'll use that for the example, this priest, and I know it was a movie, so he's not going to do any of this, but this is what's going through my mind as I'm watching it. This priest, I thought, why is he not saying anything? That's all he has to do is just tell her the truth and give her the knowledge. And it's that. Wisdom comes in knowledge. If we just ask questions and we try to attain knowledge for ourselves in the situations that are brought to us, ask questions. The priest could have just said to this lady, but why do you think that? And let me tell you the fact. And let me share this with you. And she could have asked questions. And there could have been a dialogue that went back and forth so that they had an understanding and a knowledge of each other. And things might have turned out differently. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in our world right now of people are not getting knowledge for themselves, even when it comes to God, right? Those that are far from God or those that have fallen away, I feel like we're in this day and age where people are not seeking the knowledge and the truth of God, which is why we are where we are. Because if they were seeking the knowledge and the truth of God, they would know some of these things that we're talking about with the tongue, with wisdom, with knowledge, with knowing that Christ has come not to harm us, but give us a good future, and all these things that are in the Bible. And we as believers, we can even be guilty of this sometimes. Like we can read the word all day long, but if we're not applying what we're reading, we're not really walking in wisdom or knowledge, are we? We're just kind of going through the motions. We're going through the religion, if you will, versus the relationship. So that was my takeaway from this movie. I have a couple of other things that I took away from it, and I have some things that God has been showing me in my own life personally, and I will share those as God keeps downloading them more specifically with verses around them so that I could share them with you. But it's all kind of wrapped up in this wisdom that we've been talking about, and I think there's a lot of good nuggets, and I'm so thankful for just to be able to dig into all of this wisdom and the many facets that it has. And I enjoy being part of this ministry. I enjoy learning. I enjoy sharing. I enjoy the family that's being built here. And so I'm very thankful for that. And I hope you have an amazing week. And I hope that you are blessed and that God continues to speak to you and teach you and convict you and all of those things that he does, that you will see him in all of it. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.